Welcome to Brand Deals 101, or actually more like 101 to 401, because instead of just scratching at the surface of what a brand partnership is, I'm going to be walking you through the entire process from landing one in the first place to the sending off of the final invoice. So whether you want to be hashtag sponsored yourself, or you're wondering what it is that influencers even do, then this video is for you. First, what is a brand deal? You'll also often hear the terms collaboration, partnership, sponsorship, usually to describe the same thing. But you'll also find that collaboration or partnership can also be used to define gifted partnerships or gifted exchanges, and that's not what we're talking about in today's video. We're talking about a mutually beneficial agreement with a brand where, in exchange for money as compensation, content creators will provide a service for them. And usually this service is creating content that features their product or service and posting it on your social media platforms so that it can reach your unique audience. Traditionally, having a large follower count on Instagram or YouTube was a prerequisite to landing these brand deals. But now more than ever, brands are actually looking to partner with microinfluencers, people with fewer than 10,000 followers even, because these creators often create in a very specific niche and have more trust with their audience. And sometimes brands want you to create content for them that doesn't even get posted on your social feeds. They might want it for their socials to use as ads, and that still counts as a brand deal and now is usually called UGC, user-generated content. So how do people get brand deals in the first place, especially if they don't have a lot of followers? Well, number one, the content creator or influencer can pitch the brand directly. That usually looks like getting their email address, which can be done through Hunter.io, Clearbit, LinkedIn even. Or if you absolutely have to, you can try your luck reaching out to the brand via DMs and asking for their email address. I don't recommend you send your entire pitch in the DMs. It's just not the most professional. Or newer influencers can try their hand at different influencer platforms out there. There's Isaiah, or is it Isaiah? Aspire, hashtag paid, different platforms that exist to connect creators with brand deals. Usually this is kind of like a bidding type process where there'll be like a dashboard of different brand campaigns and activations where influencers can submit themselves to be considered. And whether you are pitching the old-fashioned way or submitting to influencer platforms, it's really important to get clear on your unique value. Almost like a little go-to elevator pitch that tells the brand more than what they can learn from checking your profile and getting your stats. Like, what is your audience's psychographs? What means a lot to them? What do they value? What do they come to you for? Being able to articulate that information just helps creators stand out. Then as creators get more established, they kind of don't have as much of a need for either of those two methods because brands or agencies representing them are usually going to email influencers that they want to work with directly. When they do this, they usually have a specific campaign in mind and are often reaching out to say, hey, are you interested and what are your rates? It's also worth noting that a lot of brands work through a third-party agency these days, and they will usually act as the middleman, reaching out to you for the partnership, doing all of the negotiations, and just being your point of contact for the entire partnership. And if you're wondering how brands find influencers to work with, I do cover that pretty extensively in this how to attract brand deals without pitching video. But it's really just about creating quality content that a brand can see themselves in and making sure that you are easily findable on social media. That means implementing good SEO practices, search engine optimization, which really just means using keywords that define who you are, what you do, who you're speaking to, and including them in your bio, your content captions, your hashtags. Now, how do brand deals actually work? So once interest has been confirmed on both sides, the brand and the influencers say, yes, we want to work together, then begins the negotiations. A big misconception about brand deal negotiations is that it's all about money, that it's just this back and forth of the influencers saying, what's your budget? And the brand is saying, what's your rate? And trying to come to a happy medium. But there's actually so much more to it than that. Your rate, or how much you're charging, is not the only thing that you are trying to sort out in negotiations. As an influencer or content creator, you can negotiate how many deliverables you have to do, what platforms or how many platforms you're posting on, the usage rights, how the brand can use your content after you've created it. Can they use it to run ads? Can they boost it on Instagram or TikTok? Is there exclusivity involved? In other words, a non-compete clause where there's a set time frame where you can't work with any of the brand's competitors. The timeline, how many revisions the brand can do, the payment terms. Depending on the brand, some of these things might not be up for negotiation, but understanding all of the things that can affect the brand deal and your scope of work can help you counter more confidently and end up with a partnership that truly benefits both sides. Then from there, the contract is presented and signed. It is nearly always the brand who presents the contract to the creator. I find it's always best to read over the contract with a fine-tooth comb because more often than not, there's something that pops up in there that wasn't reflected in your email negotiations. And this is kind of your last chance to catch anything that you might not be comfortable with or that maybe wasn't on your radar before. Next, the brand will usually send over a brief, and sometimes we'll even schedule a call to go over it. I personally love this because it's just a great opportunity to build more of a rapport and connection with the brand or agency contacts. The brief will usually include key messaging behind the campaign, further information about the brand or the product or service that they're selling. It'll often repeat the deliverables and timelines and any sort of best practices and reminders that you should keep in mind as you create your content. At this point, it's really important to not be afraid to give feedback to the brand. The best partnerships are truly ones that give the creator more creative freedom and really trust them to know how to speak to their audience. So if ever a brief ever feels too stiff or scripted or is approaching the messaging from an angle that you don't think will resonate with your audience, speak up and offer some alternatives. It's important to see the brand deal as a true partnership where you have just as much as a vested interest in seeing it perform. From here, things start to move a little bit quicker. Based on the brief, the creator will put together a concept and submit it to the brand or agency for approval. I actually think it's a best practice to submit a concept regardless of if they've asked you for one or not, because the last thing you want to do is film all of your content, submit it to the brand, and have them say, "This isn't what we had in mind. Can you reshoot?" And a concept can honestly really range in how much detail you are sharing. On one end, you could share just a general idea of what you have in mind, where on the other, you can have shot lists outlining the text you're going to have on screen, linking to the music you want to play in the background. And I actually tend to err more on the side of caution and over communicate in my concept so that I can go into the creating portion knowing that both the brand and I are aligned on what it's going to look like. Then once the concept has been approved, it is time to finally create your content. This can even happen like a month after that first contract has been signed. And at this stage, there's not too much you need to keep in mind because hopefully you covered everything at the concept stage. Now you just get to bring your vision to life. And then that gets submitted for approval, and if you're lucky, there's little or no back and forth, and then you get the go-ahead to post. And you'd probably like to think that the relationship ends there, but that is not really the case. There are a couple wrap-up items that need to be checked off the list. First being content performance. So usually 1 week to 2 weeks after the content has been live, the brand wants to know how it performed. Nowadays, brands have access to a lot of third-party platforms where you can link your Instagram to them and it'll just pull all of the stats from your partnership and you don't have to do anything. But those glitch out more often than they should, and a lot of brands just aren't using them. So we'll ask you to send a screenshot of your content's performance. They want to know how many likes it got, how many saves, shares, comments. I think it's always great to go the extra mile when it comes to brand partnerships, so I like to put together an entire recap report. This can be made in like Adobe Express or Canva, and it's basically just a branded PDF where I dump and sort all of my screenshots. I'll maybe throw in some of the standout comments I got, or maybe any notable DMs. And I think this just looks a lot more clean and professional than sending them an email with like 5 random screenshots attached to it. Then, unless you were oh so lucky to have been able to invoice the brand upon signing the contract, this is usually the point where you get to send your invoice. It's always a good habit to revisit the contract and just make sure you have all of the billing information right, all of the tax information that they're asking for, and then you send it off and hope that you get paid without you having to nudge anybody. And that is a brand deal from start to finish. Was that more or less work than you imagined? If you're a creator who's trying to get some brand deals themselves, maybe even land your first one, I highly recommend you check out this playlist, which is full of resources on how to make money as a content creator. Thanks for watching, and until next time.